I don't know what to do with myself. I've always thought of retirement as an archaic word. I want to get to a place where work is optional. Too many people out there who are business people who are super successful, and I think this is why part of the reason we said before they don't seem happy. But you got to take the time to not just take care of the business, but also take care of your personal self and also take care of your health.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pick Now podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Munn. Today's guest, Phil Palumbo. Welcome. You are a little bit of a corporate refugee like myself. You founded a wealth management company. You wrote a book, and I wrote it down so I didn't get it wrong. Live well and never worry about money again. That sounds fantastic. Welcome to the Pick Now podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So let's just jump right in because the title of the book intrigues me. So I love this idea that there is some amount of money where we're never going to have to worry again. But the founders that I've worked with who are in a habit of worrying about money, no matter how much they have, they worry. So like, what's the role of like external versus internal when you're talking about, you know, how much stress you carry around in your life?
Yeah, so this is doing this for 26 years. So we have 26 years of knowledge and experience in working on this exact issue. So when people sell a business, the number one concern they have is really two. One is, will I have enough money that I can maintain the exact lifestyle that I'm used to for the rest of my life? Everybody cares about their lifestyle more than they care about their children. As stupid as that sounds, it's true. They just want to be able to live their lifestyle, and then if there's something left over for the children, great. But most importantly, they really want to live this lifestyle, right? And make sure they can live that lifestyle and not worry about running out of money. So that's the biggest concern that they have. And two is, how are they going to receive the income? So how's the cash flow going to get to them? Because they're not receiving a paycheck anymore from their business.
Right.
So those are the two major concerns. So on number one, which is your question, what we do obviously is we put the math behind everything. So it's like right brain, like you do have enough money and here's how and here's why.
Yeah.
Go through as succinct as possible so they get it. So I could bring that anxiety down. You know, that's the most important part of my job and my mission when I work with them. But many times you go through all this stuff with them and they just are nervous that they don't truly have enough money.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, 20 million, 40, 50 million, right? Or greater, they all still are nervous. But again, my job, and I think the difference between a great advisor and a good advisor is one who helps break that down and brings the anxiety levels down, because I help them understand why you have enough money and all the details around that.
Yeah, I think what I've seen from the founders that I've worked with who have had an exit is there's this huge psychological difference between getting that ongoing cash flow income, you know, however you want to call it, versus, oh, now I'm drawing down. And that feels like, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm panicked because the numbers aren't going up anymore.
Yes. The simple research really is, first of all, there was research back in the 80s. This professor wrote about the rule of four, which a lot of people know, which essentially means back of the envelope, you know, I have $20 million. I want to pull out 4%. That's $800,000 that you can pull out safely without worrying about running out of money over a 30-year period. There's a 95% chance that you won't run out of money. That's a simple rule of four. Then JP Morgan came out with another report that says 3% is even a better number. So between 3 and 4, I mean, that's really a safe zone. So, I mean, if you want to really keep it simple, that's one way to do it. You know, we go into greater detail using various projections and it's called Monte Carlo simulation and various probabilities to help dive into that even deeper. But just back of the envelope, if someone comes to me and they need 6% of their distribution from their assets, that's going to be a problem. I struggle with that, right? So if I could stay at 4 or less in return for them 5 to 7% after fees and taxes net, right, we'll stay ahead of the game. And that's how you should look at it.
So Phil, take us back a little bit. How did you get into this work? I know that, you know, you spent a lot of years at Merrill Lynch, I believe, UBS. Like, what's your origin story? Not only in kind of getting into that financial world in the first place, but then saying, you know, I want to step out of this and go on my own.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. First, I grew up from in a blue collar background. My dad was a local three electrician. Mom stayed home to take care of my older brother, younger sister, and I. And so, we had this discipline or always constantly instilled in us: go get a job, go to work, save money. Those are the key things that we've always talked about in my household. It really was never focused on the academics. I really wish it was a little bit more focused on it, but it really wasn't. It was all about that, right? So
Yeah.
I started working at the age of 13. So most people were going to
Wow.
school and hanging out with their friends after school. I went to school. I played a sport every season. And then I went to work until 11, 12 o'clock at night and rinsed and repeat all the way through high school and college as well.
11 or 12 at night? Are you
Yeah,
serious?
sometimes it was even later.
Wow.
So then when I went to college, I played Division One lacrosse at Towson University. And then in doing that, I did the same thing. I went to school, I went to practice. We practiced in the morning and then also practiced again in the afternoon. Then I worked at a country club. So I always had this kind of like mentality of strong work ethic, which carried over to my career. So I was in the major wirehouses, started my own business from my own group within the major firms
Hmm.
from scratch, literally from
Hmm.
zero. Cold calls for 5 years, did seminars for another 8 years, and then from there I kind of built a name for myself. So after 20 years of doing this in corporate America under the wirehouse world, from the very beginning, I recognized that there's major conflicts with these major wirehouses and how they
Hmm.
conduct business. I've always felt it's more about increase in shareholder value because they're publicly traded, not really about the client. I've always felt like they looked at us like sheep. Like, how can we sell more to sheep so we can then sell it to our clients so we can increase their bottom line?
Yeah.
And I always felt they're not really truly sophisticated investors. They built sales organizations, but in many respects, it's like for investors, I guess they felt like, hey, I'm wearing Gucci, I'm wearing Prada, but when you look underneath all that, you're really not, right? So it's like an
Hmm.
optical illusion.
Uh-huh.
And so I've always felt, and if I didn't feel that way, I'd still be there today. There's no doubt about it.
Uh-huh.
But I felt that way, and that's what drove me out of that world into the independent world, which, by the way, happened to be the right bet because the independent world, RAA world, it's called Registered Investment Advisory world, has more assets now than the wirehouse world. So,
Oh, wow. I
so
didn't realize that.
investors, they want to work with independent advisors who are independent, who have full
Hmm.
access to unlimited resources and investment opportunities, and have limited conflicts of interest and act as a fiduciary to the clients. And that's the benefit of really working. That's the world I wanted to be in. So that's why I made the move I made. And I mean, obviously, when I left UBS, at the time and launched my own firm, I left there with zero clients. And fortunately, 82% within just a few months came over, and then 95% after about 7 or 8 months finally came over. And from there, I'm up 4 times. So it's been an
That's
incredible journey.
yeah. That says a lot, first of all, about your model, but more, I think it says a lot about you because it means people trust you, and that's really important. And
Yep.
so for people who are watching this or listening to this who don't know the term fiduciary, talk about what that means.
Yeah, so fiduciary means that when I'm sitting across the table from a prospect or a client and I'm making a recommendation to them, they know I'm making a recommendation because it's in their best interest. You're going to pay me a
Uh-huh.
flat fee a year, but whatever investments I include in there is going to be investments that I believe is best for you. Because
Right.
we're sitting on the same side of the table. If I double your money over 10, 12 years, I just doubled my income and fees on your money over that 10 and 12 years. If your
Right.
money goes down 70%, then I'm losing 70% of my income. So I don't want
Right.
either of those. I don't want the second part to happen, but the first part I do want to happen where I want to just do the very best I possibly can for you and your family. So A, your money can grow, and then B, you talk about me to your friends and family members and associates, and through word of mouth, my business can grow. And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And other people who are not fiduciaries, they might be pitching you products because they get paid a really nice commission on those products, not because they're necessarily the best thing for you.
Yeah, so listen, I don't want to put anybody down. Everybody does things differently, but unfortunately, that model there, it's investments that are on the platforms of those models. In order to get onto the platform, it's pay to play.
Yeah.
There are many very good money managers out there in the world that don't want to get onto those platforms and pay those platform fees. So advisors in these models, they're losing out on those opportunities.
Hmm.
And many times these major firms will bring on these $1, $2, $5 billion money management firms where they no longer can deliver the performance that they used to be able to deliver. Because when you're smaller, you could be more nimble and get into and out of investments faster. But once you become
Mm-hmm.
multiple millions of dollars, you can't deliver that. So you're delivering index returns, which is hurting the client, not helping the client.
Yeah.
So that's what's on those platforms, which doesn't help clients.
Yeah. Let's talk about the genesis of make work optional. Like, where did this idea for the
Yeah.
book come from? And I want to talk about that as a concept because I think there's some interesting things to dive into there.
Yeah. I mean, the financial industry in many respects is a very sales oriented industry, right? Marketing is big. And so there's all this marketing around retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought of retirement as an archaic word. We're living in
Mm-hmm.
modern times. We shouldn't think of like, I want to retire at 55, 60, 65, 70. It should be more like, I want to get to a place where work is optional as quickly as possible. Maybe that's 45, maybe that's 48, maybe
Uh-huh.
that's 52. And what that simply means is that I built up enough money and assets that will generate enough cash flow that I can live the exact lifestyle I want to live for the rest of my life. Now, if I decide to stop working, that's up to me. Or maybe I want to I don't want to I no longer want to be in this industry anymore. I want to be in a different industry, or maybe I don't want to be an employee anymore. I want to start my own business, consulting, much like let's say what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you have options, and that's what the mentality should be. Too many people go through life saying, "I want to retire at 65 because my cousin or my brother did, or I'm getting Social Security." And I'm like, "Gosh, if you knew that work was optional at 55, what would you do different, or 50?"
Right. Right.
So there are
Right.
many people out there, believe it or not, that are ready to, let's call it, retire, but they're not because they have this random number in their head, but no math behind that random number. So I'm just getting people to think differently. And if you think this way, you'll save more, you invest in risk assets more, accumulate enough in money. Because when you get to the point where you're independent financially, I mean, think about that, Jeff. That brings down that weight on your shoulders so much, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. And that's the main objective I'm trying to push through for a lot of people.
Yeah. The irony in all of that is, I mean, there's a couple things. One is most of the people that I know who want to retire as early as possible are want that because they hate their job,
Yeah, most people do.
right? And then so they go from like having a job that they hate to nothing because it's like I'm getting the heck out of here. And then they're also like miserable in that. Like they've trained themselves to be miserable. It's
Right.
it's kind of bizarre when you see like the wiring that they have. It's like they hate the work, but then they hate not working too. Instead of where you're going is, well, if you think about it, is just having more flexibility.
That's right.
Well, I mean, one of the first clients I worked with, she came to me and she said, well, I'm making as much money as I can now. I need to do this about 10 more years and then I can do what I want. I was like, well, what if you could make more money actually doing what you want? And that's what we created for her. It took us about 10 months. And she was in a job that where she was getting more money. She felt more on purpose. So like this, we write off work as a negative when like what I like about what you're doing is you're opening the eyes of people. It's like, well, if we give you this flexibility, then you can actually explore what would really like charge you up,
Right.
excite you. Like
Yeah.
what would like when you got up in the morning or when you were thinking about your week Sunday night, right? You were actually excited rather than dreading it.
Exactly. I mean, think about
Yeah.
that. I mean, how would you feel if you had that opportunity?
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So for you, I'm really curious because you're kind of a paradox, right? You're someone who grew up, working from the age of 13 or 14, working till midnight at night, doing all this stuff. Like, what does make work optional mean for you?
Hmm. Yeah, for me, everybody's goals are different, right?
Yeah.
So technically, if I did sell my business today and the amount of money I saved and invested, I would say I'm at a point where work is optional at the age of 49.
Yeah.
That's not my goal and objective. I have three young boys. I built this business. I was really motivated by my wife's family, my wife's family members mom and dad and even extended family all built these businesses, multi-generational businesses, and had
Mm.
tremendous success. And they in it, but they're not only just tremendous successful, but they're extremely good people,
Yeah.
spiritual, give to people. I mean, just like good-hearted people. And I was extremely motivated by that. And that's really one of the reasons why I launched my own firm, because I said to myself, gosh, if I can do what they did, and then, and then have my children take over that and have them like really blow out the business and just be
Yeah.
that like grandfather on the wall that, hey, this guy started this business 100 years ago. I think that would be an incredible accomplishment, that could be amazing for the family and amazing for clients of the firm, that we can create this continuity for children, grandchildren, things like that. So that's my long-term goal. And so I don't have but I do want to get to the point where his work is optional, that if my kids didn't come into the business and I said to myself, hey, I no longer want to work or do something different, then I'm at that place. And again, I'm either there now or very, very close to being there on an after-tax basis. But that's how I think of the journey going forward, and what I would love as a vision.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 16, and then 13 and 12. And we're talking about the business literally every
I'm,
day.
I'm wondering, like, what kind, like, because I think it can be difficult as a parent to know how and when to talk to your kids about money, let alone like a family business. And I'm interested how those
Yeah.
conversations are going.
Well, for example, every single morning it starts out 7 a.m. at the breakfast table. I don't eat breakfast with them, but I'm there with them. They're eating breakfast. And as they're eating breakfast, I'm reading all my stuff to prepare for the day: Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, CNBC app, to all the stocks that I own in my client portfolios. And I'm always, when I read something, I'm always talking about something. Hey, guys, this
Uh-huh.
company, for example, like Cerebus just went public. It was something that we bought in the private markets. I did really well on it. I explained to them how
Yeah.
it went down. I explained to them the company, and so I'm always explaining something to them as it relates to what I do to ingrain it in their heads. And then on the way to school, I played a School of Hard Knocks Instagram, and the gentleman who owns that is always interviewing very successful people. And there's two key things they always get from that. Number one, these are entrepreneurs who started
Yeah.
their own businesses and had super success. And number two, spirituality is a big part of these people's lives. So
Mm,
that's how almost every single day, my kids' days, that's how it starts. So
that's a great foundation. And as they get into their teen years, are you getting any eye rolling yet, or
yeah,
like,
no, I think they're pretty excited. Listen, this business is a really cool business.
yeah,
It's a fun business. It's exciting. It's different every day. It's the markets. Everything relates to the markets. Everything going on. If the Iran war went off, all of a sudden on that Saturday, February 28th, how's it
yeah,
going to affect the markets? And you're talking to clients. So it's really exciting, and there's plenty of growth opportunity. There's 10 trillion in wealth that's going to transfer with a lot of founders who own businesses. So the
yeah,
opportunity is absolutely incredible, and it's a fun, great business.
yeah. That's fantastic. My son and I, when he was my son's 17 now. When this was a few years ago now, we found how I built this the how I built this podcast with Guy Raz, and
Oh wow.
all about founders, right? Great podcast. And just him listening to, like, they follow a pretty consistent format of, like the great business opportunity. Like there was one on Chipotle, for example, like all these things. And then there's always this major crisis where they almost lose everything, and then there's this redemption, right? And just, you could see him processing, and I see the way he talks about things now. It's like he's got a little bit of entrepreneur in him, definitely, and way
That's great.
earlier than I did,
Yeah.
certainly, because I spent a lot of years resisting the idea that I could go out on my own and create something.
One of the things I talk about a lot is one of the major benefits of AI is you're going to see an explosion of entrepreneurism, whether it's
Yeah,
people in their 40s and 50s and 60s or people 20s and 30s, because you have the ability now to take your idea and plug it into, I look at it as like an AI coach, and
yeah,
help you build conviction in what your idea is, which will then help people execute. So I think entrepreneurism is gonna skyrocket over the next 5 years.
yeah. Tell me about some of the founders you've worked with and what their exits were like from a kind of a psychological perspective.
Yeah, so I can think of one example. Let's call him, Mr. Smith. So when Mr. Smith retired, or sold his business rather, right? When sold his business and we met, we went through strategy and financial planning. We put him in a good place. We set everything up the way he needed to be. What I noticed when we met every 3 months is he seemed down and depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And so we talked about it. And I'm a very straightforward person, and I'm pretty good at sensing something's wrong, both good and bad. So I would ask, I'd say, Mr. Smith, what's going on? How you feeling? Not great. Why? I don't know what to do with myself.
Exactly.
Yep. I don't know. They get lost, and that's why it's very important. And I have other clients who just a couple of years ago sold in a loving retirement. I just asked
Mm-hmm.
one of my clients just the other day. We're at a charity event together, and I said, how are you liking the retirement now you sold your business? I love it. He's walking
Yeah.
8 miles a day. Love
How
it.
old is this person that
Yeah.
you're
So he's
talking about?
okay. So the one I just told you about, who's happy, is
Yeah.
66.
Yeah.
The other, actually, at the time was like 68, 67.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen a big discrepancy in attitude based on age. Like
Yeah.
if someone has an exit and they're 50,
Yeah. I agree with you.
totally different experience.
Yeah.
And there's this,
Yeah. So my
I
50 year
got
old, my
one,
59
I
year old.
got one more
Yeah.
run in me. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what to, yeah, they're just like
Yes.
really uneasy about identity and purpose and all those things.
Yeah. So that's
And if
why.
you've got grandkids, it's like, oh, finally I have this time to like enjoy
Enjoy.
my life and whatever. Yeah.
And that's why, like, pre-exit, and this, one of the things that we could really help people with is help go through this. That, okay, when you sell your business on Friday, what are you going to do on Monday? What is
Yeah.
that going to look like in that next chapter? And are you comfortable with that? And just helping them really understand, like, what it's going to look like. I feel like, most people feel a little upset, or not upset, or maybe a little depressed first 6 months, but eventually they get used to it. Once they get used to it, they
Uh-huh.
love it. They love it. That's what I've noticed over time.
I was working with one client who sold his business. It was like a first bite private equity thing. He's still kind of in that second bite phase,
Yep.
but he was out of the day to day, and young guy, like 40. And I talked to him like 3 months after the exit. He had already like bought another business. He just couldn't. He didn't know what to do with himself. He needed that kind of that adrenaline hit, right? And I think he's seeing now that that was a mistake, but he didn't know how to stop himself. Like if I could give anyone advice who's going through this, it'd be like take 6 months, take a year,
I
like
agree.
really let things settle,
Right.
and then because then you're kind of through the withdrawal phase, right?
Right.
There's this detox you kind of have to go through, or
Right.
else you're just going to jump right back
I
in.
love the way you put that. I agree with you. I agree with
Yeah.
you. 'Cause it's almost like when you're dating somebody back in the day, and let's say that woman breaks up with you, you're on the rebound.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like same thing with a business. Like you could sell your business, like, oh my gosh, and all of a sudden, like, boom, I got to move something quick. I got to do something different. But I think Jeff, the way you just framed that, that's great, great, great advice.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, one of the things that I do with clients who are really busy right now is, and they're kind of in this process of building their business, is we'll take 2 days, and I'm going to do this with a client coming up in a few weeks. We'll take 2 days. We'll get him totally off the email and the schedule, and get him or her out of the office routine, and really try to normalize their nervous system a little bit, because the world looks different to them. Like they begin to see how they're getting in their way, or they begin to see assumptions that they made about the world that aren't necessarily true, assumptions that they made about themselves that aren't necessarily true. Just because when you're in that stress response, the way you attack the world and attack problems looks very different.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. I need to do more of that.
We all do.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it selfishly because like I benefited from it just as much as my clients were benefiting from it. It's great.
Yeah. I actually just put in my, it's funny you're saying this. I literally just put in my schedule going forward, like one full day off, but not off, but where I could just, get out of the office and no email and just think. And I
Yeah.
feel like when I do, that's why I have a coaching program that's called Client Wise, which is industry related.
Uh-huh.
The reason why I love that, it's every quarter we meet in Dallas, but it's, I get on the plane at 6 o'clock in the morning and then I start thinking, the door
Yeah.
closes to plane and I'm on the way to Dallas and then I get there a little earlier. And that's where like you're most productive when, in terms of your thinking, right? So
Right.
there's so much to think about in terms of a business. So you got to
Yeah.
spend the time doing
Well, and sometimes the thinking isn't even like conscious thinking. It's the thing when we're on a vacation or we're on a run or we're in the
it.
shower
Yeah, shower's a big one.
and we've been running this program in the background, right? We're not even aware of it. And then all of a sudden we have it, oh, wait. And like something that we've been struggling with for weeks or months just becomes obvious.
Right,
Like how do we create an environment where that's more likely to happen?
right. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you think about the business and you think about going forward and your sons and everything, like what is it you're wanting to create next?
Within the business or
Within the business, within your life? Like
yeah,
let's say you're able to step back from the business a little bit. The
right.
business it's in a place where it can kind of run itself. Like how would you spend your time when your work is optional?
I think about this a lot now. I say to myself quite often, I say, what do I love to do when I'm really in my element? And I'll give you a perfect
Yeah.
example. Like when I'm in Italy, so I come from Italian descent. I'm a first generation. I don't speak Italian well. My wife does.
Uh-huh.
But when I'm in Italy, I am just in my element. Like my whole
Yeah.
body just like compressing in a positive.
Oh,
Oh, it's like
yeah.
to me, it's like I truly love being. I would love to live in Italy and just dive into the culture for like a month. Rather, when we go to Italy, we go to nice places, restaurants. I would just love to, like, I live my life now, but living in Italy. So,
Uh-huh.
so I really enjoy that. So I would definitely love to spend, a good amount of time in Italy. Number one, and number two, I love to work out and exercise. And when I work out and exercise now, I cut my cardio down probably 15 minutes shorter than I should, and then lifting, I cut it about 15 minutes short. So I'd probably work out longer, lift
Uh-huh.
more. So I'd love to exercise and do all that stuff. I enjoy golf. I enjoy investing, so I'd probably spend time researching companies that I want to invest in because I do enjoy that part a lot. So I would stay
Yeah.
very active, like a family office setup with my investments. So I'm the type of person that, and cooking is one of my favorite things to do, and I don't nearly need to do it as much as I'd love to do it.
Italian cooking, I'm assuming?
Can be, maybe I'd say mainly Italian and American
Uh-huh.
stuff, right? So, but yeah, mainly Italian, I would say. So, so I love that. And then finally, I always wanted to do this, laugh. I always wanted to start my own restaurant, but with like 8 tables, candle lit, like a romantic environment, and then have no menu. Here's what's fresh for the day,
Uh-huh.
and create that type of ambiance. So I always wanted to do that, and not to make money. I probably wouldn't make a lot of money. I'd probably just do it because I just love that
No, but that's the beautiful thing, right? Is you could be able to do something like that without, I mean, you probably don't want to lose money, but you wouldn't have to like,
exactly. I agree with you. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah. What a
there's so many
beautiful
things I
thing.
would always want to do.
So which one of those things is like the one that feels most exciting, even if it feels a little unrealistic?
Living in Italy.
Yeah. Like the way you lit up a little bit when you said that. Like,
Yeah,
why not do that? I mean,
yeah.
you could make that work.
I can make it work right now. I mean,
Yeah.
the market doesn't open until 3 o'clock European time. I mean, that's like perfect.
Uh,
So I get the whole day to enjoy it.
sit
I
in a
work
little coffee shop
a
and yeah.
100%. Oh gosh,
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. I mean, it's like just simple thing like going to a coffee shop, have an espresso, sit outside, and just enjoy the like the old world.
Yeah. Oh, that I get excited when I think about that. I my uh our son spent a year in Japan as an exchange student
Oh wow.
this past year when he was a sophomore. He's a junior now, just finishing up his junior year. And and so my wife and I got to go spend 3 weeks in Japan. And oh my gosh,
You like
I
it?
would, oh, I loved it. I would love
Wow.
to go back. And I,
Really?
and it just realized, I don't think of myself as a big traveler, but it lit this kind of fire under me. It's like, yeah, I would like to have the flexibility to be able to spend a month a year somewhere else in the world, like not as a tourist, but as you said, just like living as much as you can, like the people there live,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
sitting in
that's
a
really
coffee
cool.
shop,
Yeah.
doing a little bit of work, but that's
Yeah, of
not the main
course. Me
reason
too.
you're
Yeah.
there,
I
right?
enjoy, my work is like, I don't look at, I feel like work is optional for me at this point where I really love what I do and I don't look at it as work. I mean, I
Yeah.
delegate a lot of the stuff I don't like to do. So I've set up things the way I like to set up, but I agree. I love just having my iPad with me. I can do everything from my iPad. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Tell me about your coaching program. That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, so the coaching program, it's this guy, Ray Sclafani, who does a nice job. He's been around the industry for a long time. And yeah, so I started this about a year ago, approximately.
What kind of people is it focused on? Is it industry
RIA.
focused?
Yeah, it's industry
Okay.
focused. Yeah, so
Yeah.
RIAs. So I'm an RIA. So the number one reason why I wanted to do it is because every quarter when we meet, I'm around, I think, 35 RIAs, CEOs
Hmm.
of RIA firms. And that's so it's great for me to walk away with that, to know like, what am I missing, what am I not doing, what should I be doing. I'm always,
Yeah.
I'm inquisitive to everybody I'm talking to, just to learn about, especially with AI, right? So what am I not doing with AI that you're doing, and stuff like that. So that's where it's
Yeah.
really true, very, very helpful. And then this guy Ray, who owns ClientWise, he has access to this, so he's putting stuff out there, content that it relates to, the best and latest and greatest thing that we should know about. So that's the main goal of why I'm in it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because I've been in groups like that, and I actually have started a group like that in a different industry. Um, and there's like the peer experience, and there's also the peer experience in terms of like shared expertise. Like, we're going to learn about AI, or what are you doing with this aspect of your business, or those kind of things. But then there's also like this normalizing of problems and stresses. Like, you may feel like, I'm going through this thing that's difficult and it's hard to talk about and I feel alone, but if you share it with other people who are doing similar things, oftentimes they're going through the same thing, and there's just some kind of power in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. um okay, so go back to the very beginning again. What's Why finance? Because it sounds like that was not your family experience.
Mhm.
It sounds like it was very much about, work, and I'm guessing like kind of a middle class union environment and
Mhm.
pension and hard days work and
Mhm.
all of that, right?
Mhm.
You take a little bit of a left turn there. And what's like the through line today, and how have you changed from back then to now?
Mm. I wasn't. If you listen to Ray Dalio as an example, who runs the largest
Hmm.
hedge fund, right? When he talks about,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was trading stocks, I think in like high school, or some of these guys,
yeah.
some people do talk like that. I wasn't that person. Not that I just, something that we didn't learn about in a home, and I didn't really have access to understand economics and whatnot. So I didn't have this desire to get into finance. However, when I graduated college, my brother was working at Merrill Lynch, and my older brother, always looked up to him, and then there was this opportunity to interview there. And so when I interviewed there, I interviewed this guy named Tom Fickinger, who was this like
Mhm.
stud 6'3" guy, played quarterback at Villanova, dressed really well, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like. And then I was at this Merrill Lynch building and all that gravitas that comes with it.
Yeah.
And then and then we're sitting there, and I'm like, and he really liked me a lot. He's like, listen, I'd love to offer you a job. I said, great. I said, how much are you gonna pay me? He said, has 26,000. I said, 26. How about 29? He goes, yeah. So, and then he gave me this financial plan book, and then I brought the book home and I looked it over, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and then when I started working there and I was in a cubicle studying to get on my test, an epiphany went off in my head. Literally, I'll never forget. It was like 6:30. Nobody was in the office at the time, and it was like a big office. And And I said to myself, gosh, I'm going to be in this business for the rest of my life, because I spoke to other financial advisors.
Wow.
I spoke to other financial advisors. So I started to learn about the business, and then, the personality and what was all about, like I said, the gravitas of the business.
Yeah.
And I said, gosh, I'm going to be in this business for the rest of my life. And that's how I just realized that this is what I wanted to do. I love people. I love talking to people. I'm inquisitive. I learn from people. And what I do is one of the three things that one of the three professionals that make a big difference in people's lives, right? Like your health is
Mhm.
most important. That's a doctor.
Yeah.
Family is your second most important thing. And then third is money, right? So you need money to enjoy all, your family. And if you're healthy, then you can enjoy your family. And if you take care of your money, you can enjoy your family. If you're a disaster with money and you have no money, it's hard to enjoy your family and build experiences, right? So
Yeah, sure.
I'm in a very important part of my clients' lives. So that's really important. And then to answer your question, like how did things change until now? I really haven't. I mean, obviously, I have to say I learned so much, right? But my work ethic and the grit that I have, that's all been. It still remains the same, and just that I'm just a hardworking, curious student of what
Uh,
I do, as I always been with stuff that I really loved, and that's been pretty much the same.
how easy or difficult is it for you to relax when you need to?
It's not that difficult. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at. I could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. I'm pretty good at that. Yeah,
Well, that just means you're sleep deprived.
yeah, that's true. That's a good point, actually. Uh, as far as relaxing, I mean, I'm pretty good when I know it's like relaxed time or I'm doing something. Uh, it depends on the environment, but I'm pretty decent at it, I would say.
The people that I've seen be happiest are the people who like have the self-awareness to know when to turn it on, the
Hmm.
intensity part, when to turn it on and when to turn it off. And they have an internal, guidance system that lets them know, oh yeah, it's time to grind a little bit for the next few months, and that's fine. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a little burnt out. I need to step back. I need to go spend a month in Italy, whatever that looks like. And it seems like you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty balanced. I'm not that guy that's going to say I'm going to grind it out the next month. I mean, like, but I had to transition my business, obviously, yes, to go
Yeah.
independent. But I'm a pretty balanced person, I would say. I'm not like, hey, the next week I'm just going to grind it out. The next week I'm going to relax. And like what you were saying, I'm pretty balanced throughout my days and weeks.
Yeah. I see a similarity in how you started and how I started. So for me, I started out as a law firm lawyer. And the reason that I got into it wasn't that I had a dream to be a lawyer. It was because I asked the question, like, well, what does success look like? And then I got exposed to law and kind of, going to a good law school and getting wined and dined by law firms down. It's like, oh yeah, that looks really good. And then I did it for a while and it's like, these people don't really, they seem successful, but they don't actually seem happy. And that was the first time where I started thinking about, what do I want? And that was a pretty major shift for me because up to that point in my life, it was all about how do I look good? What do other people expect of me?
Mhm. Jeff, I think one of the things that I do a lot is kind of sit back and really ask myself, and almost like self-aware, like, okay, what is it that is going, what's making you happy? What's not making you happy? What do you really want out of your life? What do you not want out of your life?
Yeah,
What people do you want in your life? What people do you not want in your life? Right?
right.
What matters to you the most, and really taking a step back and thinking about that, because I think it's important to continue to build a life like that for yourself, so you can kind of keep live a very stable, happy life. And for so in that and you have to think about that. You got to take a pad out, you got to write it down and think about it, or even think about it in your head emotionally, to so you live the very best life you could possibly live. That's very important to me.
Yeah, you talked about stepping back and taking a day and doing something like that. I mean, what advice would you have for, the people who watch and listen to this podcast, pretty driven, high achieving people who don't necessarily take the time to do that, who aren't very good at asking that question?
Yeah, the
Like what
problem
what? What
Yeah.
advice would you have for them to like, how do you do that?
Yeah, the problem is, same thing as you and I working with people who are going to exit business. Businesses. I mean, many businesses are not really at best in class because their head is in the business so much, right? That they
Yeah.
never take that head out of the business and think high level. What can I do to make this business best in class? The
Hmm.
only way to do that is you have to take that step back and get away from the noise and ask yourself, ways and start thinking about the business. If it is thinking about the business, your personal life. If you don't do that, you're I don't know. I just feel like you're not going to take that big next step that you need,
Right.
in your life and in business.
Right. Right. It's that idea of like, are you grinding for like 1 to 5% gains every year, or do you step back and suddenly see something totally different and
Right.
like you've made a complete shift in not only maybe even in what business you're in the first place, or you're buying another business, or I've got clients who like what really excites them isn't the running of the day-to-day business. They've got that handled. It's, oh, I'm looking for other opportunities. That's how I'm spending my time. That's what's getting me excited.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, I really mean this. I think we all have to be thinking of things in three buckets, right? The business
Hmm.
bucket, personal bucket, and health, right? Those are the three main
Yeah.
things, and you got to take care of those things equivalently. And too many people out there who are business people who are super successful, and I think this is why part of the reason we said before they don't seem happy. They don't
Yeah.
seem happy because their entire head is just in the business. They don't think
Right.
about max your personal life, and many people get divorced. You don't think about, or they're not talking to their children. And then
Right.
there's your health.
Or they develop health issues, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if we're gonna be on this journey, I'm not saying not work hard, but if you're gonna be on this journey, then you can still be extremely successful, but you got to take the time to not just take care of the business, but also take care of your personal self and also take care of your health.
Phil, I think that's a great place to end on.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice, great perspective. For people who want to, follow you, keep track of what you do, keep track of what you're up to, or even reach out and potentially talk to you about working with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So my website is www.palumbowm.com. That's W like William, M like Mary.com. You could just put in Philip Palumbo in Google. You'll see my Instagrams, my LinkedIn, the content that I put out there regularly on CNBC, Fox Business. So you can see some of my past interviews. So yeah, so anybody could easily reach out to me. Love to help them if they need help, especially if you're a founder looking to exit a business. That's the best way to track me down.
All right, Phil, thanks so much for being a guest on the Pick Now podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening to this podcast. If you're interested in hearing conversations like this every week, make sure and follow, subscribe, do all the things. And if you want deeper thoughts on leadership and the self journey toward leadership, subscribe to my email list and get more details like this every week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Pick Now podcast. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Jeff.